With the Ice Queen's forces on the move through Frostholm, Baldr, the chieftain of IcePoint, is preparing his defenses. Part of that is repairing the Palisade that runs around the village. Welcome to part 4 of building my fantasy world of Frostholm. Since the last video, I've made some great progress on the village of IcePoint. In the first episode of the series, I showed the front gate, and the wall that I started in that episode now goes all the way around the village, ending at the seashore. Now before I dive into the lore and updates I've made, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been tuning into this series. It's really been blowing up in a way that I wasn't expecting. I never thought so many people would care about a fantasy world I created. So thank you. Before Baldr became the chieftain of IcePoint, it had no wall. But due to its location, sea raiders constantly sacked it. But when Baldr became chieftain, he shored up the town's defenses, making a great palisade that surrounded the village. He also hired and trained soldiers to defend the town so that the village could become prosperous with trade. But because his army was so effective, raiders haven't dared to attack in a long time. Because of this, the wall was not taken care of as much as it should have been. But now his men are working hard to replace the rotted sections. One big goal I wanted to do with this wall was not make it a square box. So on the 2 plates on either side of the gate are these hinges that allowed me to make an angle with the wall. Then on each side I added a section of straight wall, and finally on the end I add these smaller angle walls that end at the shoreline. I used a very similar building style as the gate for the rest of the wall. It's mostly brown palisade bricks with a mixture of dark brown and white. I do need to get more tooth parts to add to the long straight section of the wall because I honestly love how it looks like snow buildup on the wall. And I kind of ran out of them, so I just need to get more. I am also working on getting more of these cone parts, but in tan, to put on the top of the palisade. Now before I get comments about this, I do plan on putting in some watchtowers and other defenses. My biggest goal for putting in this wall was just to see how much space I'd have for putting in buildings into this village. Now that I have the wall done, I can start designing the layout of the village. On these long wall sections, I did put in snowdrifts and other details to build out the landscape. I don't want this entire mock just to be a ton of flat mills plates, which is what I tend to do with mocks this size. On the inside of the wall right now, there isn't too much detail, but I did build up the terrain in a few places. Once I put in buildings and roads, I'm going to build out the terrain of the rest of the village. On the outside of the wall is a bunch of plant life that is popping up through the snow and some uneven terrain. I will definitely be adding more detail to the shoreline plates and the angled wall plates. Overall, I'm very happy with the shape of the wall in general. I think this octagon-like shape I created with the wall just makes it look so much more interesting. Something else I like about how I built the walls is that it allows me to lengthen the walls if I ever wanted to expand the village. Now also, I said in the first episode I really wanted to make a boat and dock as part of this mock, and I've made my first steps towards that. In a future episode, I'm going to put a lot more detail into the shoreline and dock. So if you want to see that update, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my progress. Also, if you've been enjoying this series, hit that like button. As I said, this is a rough draft of the dock and shoreline. Right now the dock is straight with 2 piers and sits on these 2x2 round bricks. I plan on making it a little more crooked and giving it a lot more wear and tear. I did fill in the water with transparent blue tiles and added my first attempt at ice chunks. After I decided I wanted a port for ships and that this is a snowy tundra, I thought it'd be really cool to have these chunks of ice floating in the water around the port. These 2 that I made do have 1-stud connections to the plate. I also made it so I could attach animals and minifigures to the top of them. I picked up this Arctic City set that had 2 seals and put them on top of the ice. Overall, really happy with how they look, and I definitely think they add more life to this build. I think the wall and shoreline really helped the village take shape, and really helped this mock jump to the next level. The next project I'm going to tackle is the Chieftain's Hall, which is why there's a base plate missing in the middle. After that, I'm going to work on building the other buildings in the village and maybe even move the 2 by the front gate. Definitely a big project I want to work on to go with the dock is the ship. There's a real life reason and a lore reason why I haven't done one yet. The real life is I have no clue how I'm going to make it. I have never built a boat from scratch before, and honestly I don't even know if I have the pieces to do it. But that's what this mock is all about, pushing myself in my mock building abilities. The lore reason though is important to the story. The last time the Ice Queen rampaged through Frostholm, it was only through the combined efforts of all the clans of Frostholm and their allies from across the sea that she was stopped. Baldr has sent his ships and messengers to many allies to raise support for the looming war. Villages near IcePoint such as Snowhaven and Glacial Stead have already started preparing for war. What worries Baldr the most is that the capital of Frostholm, Frostgard, has not responded to him yet, but one special messenger went out to his greatest ally, his brother-in-law, Hrothgar's Serpentbane, who killed the fear dragon Viprox. With him is his clan of the Sylvan Berserkers. These warriors are known far and wide for their brutal and cunning tactics. Baldr is worried though that Hrothgar might not get his message in time.